Jane, or Sleeping Beauty, as the staff of a well-known hospital called her, was a pretty girl who 10 years ago, when she was still 9, came to this hospital after almost drowning. She fell into a coma and was completely dependent on life support devices and medical staff. Poor elderly parents were shocked to see what a deplorable state their baby was in, and after the announced bills for maintaining the girl's life, they fell into an even deeper depression. But there were kind people who helped the family cope with the financial costs of maintaining their daughter's life. Even the hospital staff were so impressed by this story and so wanted to help the little girl with the angelic face, to whom they had already become attached, that they decided several times a year to raise money for her maintenance, even if these fees and they didn't even cover a couple of weeks in a clinic. But the girl's parents were pleased that the people who take care of her are so worried about her. Years passed, and although the baby did not open her eyes, during this time she turned from a sweet girl into a beautiful young girl. Everyone at the clinic was constantly talking about her. It was amazing, and at the same time it was very sad to see how the life of a girl who was so adored by others was passing unconscious. Maria, one of the nurses at the hospital, who had been working there for a long time, became attached to the girl the most. She said she felt like her second mother and spent a lot of time with the patient, talking to her, turning on her music and performing the necessary procedures. The woman was firmly convinced that one day the Sleeping Beauty would wake up. Jane's parents, although they tried to visit her as often as they could, were already so old that they could do little to help their daughter. One day, Maria accidentally broke her leg. The fracture turned out to be not simple and the bones did not heal the first time, so the nurse did not work for almost a year in total, as there was a difficult recovery. She did not stop thinking about poor Jane all this time, worrying that her colleagues did not take care of the patient as carefully as she did, and this could have an even worse effect on the girl's health. A year later, Maria finally fully recovered and was able to return to work at the hospital. On the first working day, the woman immediately went to her beloved patient. When she entered the room, she saw that although the girl looked the same as before, there was a strange expression on her face. At that moment, the patient began to make strange noises, which attracted the attention of the nurse, and she saw that there was some strange elevation in the center of her body. When she threw off the sheet, she saw something terrible. Maria screamed and rushed to find a doctor. Jane's huge belly turned out to be under the sheet. Apparently she was pregnant. At the moment when the nurse entered the room, the patient was just having contractions. Upon learning this news, all the hospital staff were shocked. How is this possible? No one could understand why no one had said anything about the girl's condition for so long. Doctors urgently performed an operation, and they managed to bring a fragile child into the world. Despite the small weight of the baby and her weak condition, the forecasts were quite optimistic. When the first shock passed, Maria, without a second's hesitation, contacted the police, as it was obvious that some scoundrel had taken advantage of Jane's helpless condition and raped her. The authorities immediately launched an investigation, and the public soon found out about this case. The story caused an incredible reaction. Frightened by the whole situation and the public outcry, the clinic's management decided to disconnect the patient from life support systems, and transfer her child, who was still being cared for by Maria, to social services. It was not difficult to do this, since the girl's mother had already died, and her father had left the family a few years ago and moved to another city. By this time, the costs of maintaining the girl's vital activity were mainly borne by the hospital and the staff, who still collected money several times a year. Upon learning about the decision to turn off the girl, Maria began to object sharply, and then, crying in despair, rushed to the poor girl's room with the child in her arms and began to beg her to wake up. When the doctors entered the room to disconnect the girl from the device that supports her life, Maria, in a last hopeless attempt to cause at least some reaction from Jane, put the baby on her chest. When the woman felt his warmth and heard crying, her eyes finally opened, and poor Jane woke up, not just an adult woman, but the mother of a little girl. It was very difficult for a girl who had just woken up from a long sleep to accept this. "I don't have a home, my mom died, and I have no idea how to take care of a child," the girl said in confusion, realizing a little what was happening. Maria, who during this time managed to fall in love with the girl as her daughter, calmed her down, saying that she would take care of her and her baby. After DNA tests, it turned out that the girl's father was one of the doctors of the clinic, who donated the most money to support the girl's life in the hospital. He tried to pay off using his huge connections and money, but thanks to Maria, who did not give up for a minute, demanding justice, he got a sentence, and his family had to allocate a decent allowance for Jane so that she and her child would not need anything. Thank you for watching this amazing story to the end. Don't forget to leave your comments, like and share this video.